Hold one. Arm drag. Whoa! This is
Brett screwed Brett.
Who are you to doubt El Dandy? Because this guy's a serious professional.
Brett screwed Brett.
Hold two. Arm bar.
Hey, get a nice shot of the brand new Mr. and Mrs. Hunter Hurst Helmsley.
I hate you. I hate you. I hate your hat. I hate your t-shirts. I hate your wristbands. I hate your shoes. I hate your music. I hate the C Nation. I hate everything that you stand for.
So does Rule.
Yeah, they do.
Hold three. The moss-covered, three-handle family Gradunzo.
Live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C., this is the RCWR Show with your host, Lee Sanders.
And we welcome you tonight on this nice and calm Tuesday night, coming at you live right now on December 4th, 2012. Black Avenger, LS, Lee Sanders here. What's up, guys? Hopefully everybody's had a fantastic weekend. Hey, for my guys in the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, how about those damn Redskins getting the job done against the Super Bowl champions, the New York Giants, as Robert Griffin III made his Monday Night Football debut. Lovely co-producer Tammy, I know you were watching that game. How did you like what you saw from RG3?
It was awesome.
I was about to say, you're speechless, huh?
Kinda.
that was pretty impressive.
It was very impressive. It was nice to see them hold it together. And, they actually looked like they didn't even want to run up the score anymore, when they came down to that last minute. Just like, okay, let's just run the clock out and go home.
They did have an opportunity to score, did they? Because they looked like, if I'm not mistaken, they looked as if they could have went for a touchdown there at the end.
Mhm. They had gotten the last down that they needed, but they just basically said, you know what? Let's run the clock out and go home, call it a day. No need to kind of add insult to injury.
I was juggling the game and I was watching WWE Raw, so I really wasn't able to fully enjoy it. But I must admit, I did love what I saw of the game. I did love that more than what I had saw from Raw this past Monday night, and I do want to get into great depth about that in just a little bit. Folks, we welcome you to the Tuesday night edition of the RCWR show, coming at you live right now on blogtalkradio.com. You can interact with us during the course of tonight's episode. As we got the chat room, it's loaded up right now at Blog Talk Radio. Feel free to jump on in there. You can also interact with us on Twitter at Infinity One Prod, and you can interact with us on Facebook at Infinity One Productions. While you're at it, take the time out, like the page. It's been getting quite a few likes. We always put up some really great content up on there on a daily basis, so check that out on Facebook. And, of course, we'll open up the phone lines in the later part of the show. And, Co-Producer Tammy, how was your weekend?
Oh, pretty good. Somewhat relaxing, getting the Christmas decorations up at the house and, just trying to get in that holiday spirit. How about you, Lee?
Well, I'm trying to get into the holiday spirit, but I'm keeping in mind that there's like a sea of shows that is just going to be coming around the corner, and I'm trying to maintain my coolness as the storm is about to come. I mean, I'm looking at the calendar for this month. December is going to be a true test as long as we've been on the air, because I know we haven't talked about it yet, but it looks like there's probably going to be about 5 shows ahead in 1 week.
Well, you keep it cool like you usually do.
I'm going to try to keep it cool. We'll see what happens. It's still kind of early there. But, there's so much that we got to talk about tonight with regards to WWE Raw. Of course, we got some very, very breaking news. We were one of the first wrestling websites to break the news out to you guys a couple of hours ago during the SmackDown tapings, as it looks like WWE Champion CM Punk will not be defending his championship at the TLC pay-per-view. I repeat, CM Punk is not going to be defending his WWE Championship at the TLC pay-per-view. We'll give you guys the very latest on what we have available on CM Punk. But first, I want to take care of some personal side business. Usually we hold the type of conversations that we are about to dive into for the weekend editions of the RCWR show that we do. But, I think, Tammy, you would agree, it really didn't make sense to talk about these two events, 2 weeks down the road on the weekend edition. By then, it's no longer really that popular. It's, kind of like a thing in the past. You kind of got to get on it while it's still current. That's the way it is nowadays. And, I want to talk about, all joking aside, I just want to be serious here for a minute, keep it real. I want to talk about what had happened over the weekend there, as, of course, the Kansas City Chief player, Jovan Belcher, he just shockingly killed his girlfriend, killed himself, and just left a sweet, innocent little girl all alone, no mommy, no daddy. And, for you guys that really don't know the full details about what all had happened, just in case you might have not been able to catch any football this weekend or going into Monday, as, we know there's quite a few of you that just don't have the time to catch up on and not even check out the news. This is a special shout-out to those of you that might not have been reading the headlines, catching it. Basically what went down was, on December 1st, and I'm giving it to you straight just as we were able to get the information. Now, this is according to the Kansas City police. Jovan Belcher, who was a Kansas City Chiefs football player, his position was linebacker. He basically had sat up on December 1st, and he shot his girlfriend named Cassandra Perkins in front of his mother. This went down at approximately 8 a.m. on December 1st, and he did this at their house on Kressler Avenue. Now, Cassandra was shot in the chest, the neck, the abdomen. Police were dispatched to the house at 7:52 a.m. after Belcher's mother, who was visiting from West Babylon, called. Now, at 8:01 a.m., police were dispatched to an armed disturbance in the parking lot at a nearby Chiefs practice facility next to Arrowhead Stadium, where Belcher had driven his Bentley about 5 miles from Chrysler House. In the parking lot of the practice field, he stepped out of the car holding a gun to his head. He first encountered the Chiefs general manager, Scott Pioli, and told him, quote, "I did it, I killed her." He asked the Chiefs owner, Clark Hunt, to take care of his daughter and thanked Pioli for everything he had done for him. Another Chiefs employee arrived, and Pioli told him to stay back, try to get Belcher to drop the gun. Chiefs head coach Romo Crennel and linebackers coach Gary Gibbs joined the conversation, tried to talk him down, putting that gun down, most importantly, but he told them, quote, "Guys, I have to do this." Sound of the police sirens could be heard in the background as the cars were coming. Belcher repeatedly said, "I got to go. I can't be here." Took a few steps away in another direction, kneeled down by a car, made a cross sign gesture, shot himself in the head, and, that's it. So, he took his girlfriend's life, took his own life. You just feel so sorry for the 3-month-old child named Zoe. And it's so weird because from what we were able to gather on this, it looks like the couple, they had been known for getting into an argument, and most recently there was an argument that had occurred over the weekend as Cassandra had returned from a Trey Songz concert, and at the time was visiting the Power and Light District, which is basically a entertainment district by the Midland and Sprint Center in downtown Kansas City. Now, Sports Illustrated is reporting that Belcher was also in the Power and Light District, but with a different woman, one that he is saying that is his other girlfriend, apparently, or something like that. And Deadspin is also reporting that back on November 18th, the loss that they had the Kansas City Chiefs, to the Cincinnati Bengals, that he was dazed and was suffering from short-term memory loss, couldn't remember the events that had taken place prior to that game or what he was said to get Cassandra Perkins to return home. Now, should be noted, duly noted, according to the New York Daily News, they, good research on their part, they noted that since 2011, get this, folks, 5 other NFL players have killed themselves. Names goes as follows. Dave Durson, for those of you that are kind of like, that name kind of sounds familiar. He used to play for the Chicago Bears back in 83 to 89, also played for the New York Giants. Ray Esterling, he played safety. He had played for the Atlanta Falcons. Of course, Junior Seau, he used to play for the San Diego Chargers there. And, of course, we got to talk about Kurt Crane. All these guys, and Kurt Crane used to play for the Green Bay Packers. All these guys did self-gunshot-inflicted wounds to, basically kill themselves. And, Tabby, this supposed suicide here, or not supposed, let's call it for what it's worth. It was a suicide that Belcher had. It's already been drawing comparisons to Chris Benoit, of course, former decorated wrestler that had took out himself and his family over the course of a 3-day weekend. I definitely want to get your thoughts on this.
Well, it certainly brings up a very interesting point to realize that you have not just one person who is most recent, but there is somewhat of a pattern that's kind of going on. Football is a great sport to watch, but it is really, really rough as you're playing it and rough on your body. Unfortunately, that's probably in part why they get paid so much. But, it's really a tough sport, and it can really cause damage to parts of your body that you're not even aware of. Apparently, to some of there might be a little bit aware, but, to really go out and say, this is a pattern that I'm seeing, and then to not actually be able to recall events from earlier that day, that is something to be said for that in itself. It certainly, tells you that, first of all, maybe he shouldn't have been playing in that game.
Yeah.
And secondly, to maybe start to do some further investigations on what's going on. We just heard not too terrible long ago about, Michael Vick and his concussion. And apparently that concussion was pretty severe because he's been out since it happened, and they're still trying to get him ready to play again.
Right. I believe there's one last test that he needs to take this week. It's a test that he has not been able to take, to pass, rather, as he's taken it a few times. I'm not sure if it's an eye coordination test or what, but from what I was able to gather, he has not been able to pass this test yet, and it's the only thing that's keeping him from getting the okay to go back to the main roster. But even at that, Andy Reid has already said that he's gone with his other quarterback for the remainder of the season, which, of course, is probably going to upset the Philly fans, as they're already upset as it is. They want Andy Reid out the door already, but You brought up a very good point. Not to mention you factor in the whole bounty games that had went down a while back with the New Orleans Saints, and we saw what had happened with Greg Williams there, and Sean Payton.
Those players taking money to basically hit harder.
Right.
And to basically do that kind of damage, which that's completely wrong in itself, but unfortunately it does happen.
I would hope that this would be a huge, it's something that really wasn't covered over the weekend. I mean, I saw CBS, I watched Fox, I watched NBC. I really didn't hear too much of this being said, as everybody just, really wanted to chime their thoughts on these tragic events that had happened. But I'm really hoping that Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, takes what had happened right here, and he really just used this as a sign, included with the new evidence that was brought to light by the New York Daily News, noting that since 2011, we got a grand total of 5 other NFL players that have killed themselves. All these guys practically, by gun. I really hope this makes Roger Goodell really get a sense of urgency and try to take that next step. Maybe there needs to be more aggressive psychological evaluation on these players. Maybe that's something that needs to be mandatory in the off season, during the season. This is a really freaky trend. You know what I'm saying? If you would have told me in 2010, hey, after 2011, there's going to be like 5, 6 football players that's all going to be popping themselves, I'd have been like, you're joking, right? No, come on. I don't know if somebody. Sometimes when you hear this, it sounds like a really bad joke, but unfortunately, it's not.
Absolutely. Well, as we were kind of talking prior to the show, it's actually been identified on 2 of the players that has this CTE, and basically, that has attributed it. These 2 players to having significant, what it really boils down to is brain damage.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and basically those repeated hits and, with the sport being as physical as it is, and, sometimes, especially, as a casual fan, and you hear, oh, well, this person has a concussion, and then you see them, a couple days later, and you're like, oh, okay, they're back, and you don't really think about, what's going on after that.
Right. Football, that's the one thing I'll say about football, and I want to say this in a nutshell, and then, we'll move on, folks, but football, the one thing that I've always loved amongst all the sports, I have always had a love for that sport because it is the most physical, it is the most hands-on sport that you can get. Basketball is good, but, that's more of a finesse. It's more of a dance, if you will. Baseball, that's pretty much it. Comes down to just hitting a ball with a stick as far as I'm concerned. Same thing with tennis. Boxing, that's a damn good sport on its own. MMA, that's a good sport on its own. But, football I've always thought is one of the most physical sports there is from North America. And, it's one of those type of sports that, there's not that much padding you could put on a player. You could do whatever you need to do to make sure that the quarterback or whatever player is protected from getting hit in any old type of way, delayed hit, whatever you want to call it. But you know what? Unfortunately, bad hits are going to happen, whether it's unintentional or not. It's going to happen. It comes with the territory. Just like these MMA fighters, these boxers, they don't go into every single fight thinking their face is going to remain intact, If it does, kudos for them, but, damage is going to happen. And, I'm all for the players being protected, but hearing stuff like this just really, says to me, okay, we need some type of a investigation going on here, because these are too many football players that are offing themselves. And, my heart goes out to that poor little girl, because, my God, this is going to be her first Christmas without both of her parents. That's just, no child should be without their parents for Christmas.
No child should have to go through what she's going through. Fortunately for her, she's really not going to remember a whole lot about it, because she is so young. But no, you're right. No, and her heart goes out to their family as well. Mother, sister, brother. Goodness, I can't even fathom how much pain and hurt they're going through right now.
What pisses me off the most about this, and this might rub some people off the wrong way, but I'm just speaking from the heart here. And, Tammy, you might not even like what I'm getting ready to say, but, the thing that pisses me off about this the most is, and I'm going to choose my words carefully. I'm not going to say I wish, but if dude felt like taking people's lives, he should have just taken his own. And at least that way it could have been like, you know what, at least my kid will still have, one of its parents around to, see it grow up and, see its first steps, first words, go to preschool, graduate, all that stuff. If you feel it's all doom and gloom, there's no hope for you at the end of the road, go ahead and jump off the plank yourself. But, unless other people are sitting up saying, hey, I want to tag along with you, that doesn't give you the right to act like God.
Well, honestly, my take on it is just a bit different. What I think happened is he just got so aggravated and so annoyed with the whole situation, because apparently they had been fighting for hours, is he just emotion took over and he reacted. And then it was like, oh, crap, what did I just do? Okay, you know what? Since I just did that, they're pretty much going to lock me away and throw away the key. So let me take the easy way out and off me too.
Well, of course, folks, we're definitely going to be staying on top of this story. And, I would think that an autopsy is underway, so hopefully we'll know, what was in his system, if he had any drugs, alcohol, anything. Hopefully, more light will be shed, because, that would actually answer a lot of questions if we know what's up with those autopsy results. And rest assured, as soon as we find out anything about that, we'll definitely post it on the website over at infinity1productions.com. Let's switch gears up a little bit, Tammy. Let's talk about something just a little bit lighter. And, we were picking everybody's brains over the weekend. And it was kind of hilarious, but then it was like, okay, seriously, what's going on here? And, of course, we're talking about comedian Katt Williams, who has just been sitting up, and this man has just been making his rounds in media in a bad way. Now, it's become an overnight sensation on YouTube. Somebody had finally released the video, but apparently Katt Williams was inside of a Target store, and the footage that you see, there is no audio, so you can't hear what's going on, but Katt Williams, he's basically having an exchange of words with the Target employee who is operating the cash register. It's a guy, and Katt Williams is having a few words with him, and, you're not really sure what happens, but the next thing you see, for certainty, you see Katt Williams, he just pimp slaps, just pop the guy across the face, and we just see this guy, he just calmly takes his cell phone out of his pocket, proceeds to call 911, and we see Katt Williams just get on those go-karts that's supposed to be for people with severe disability, the elderly. He just gets into that, gets his little soda cup, and he just rolls on out of the store. And, of course, this wasn't the last time that we would hear of Katt Williams. Katt Williams, he sat up and, he got into some other stuff. But I want to talk about that other stuff in just a little bit. We had took to YouTube, and we have a very popular video on there. I sat up, and I had gave my take on what had happened with Target. And I asked the people that were viewing the video to give their opinions, let us know what they had thought of this. And pretty much in a nutshell, I basically said, look, I think Katt Williams, he needs some help. This guy is either on some serious drugs, or maybe this is a case where he's bipolar, but he's just doing things that really just makes one question his mental status. Maybe a family member, wife, or the court may need to step in and get him committed for some mental evaluations to see what exactly is going on in that brain of his. And we had asked you guys, what was your take on, what all's been going on with Katt Williams. Very interesting stuff. Now, most of these comments I'm going to be reading is mainly from people that wanted to talk about what had happened with the Target incident, as that was really the hottest thing at the time. But we have some new stuff on Katt Williams we want to let you guys know about. But let's talk about some of these comments that came in, Tammy, as quite a big number of you had a lot to say. And let's just kick it up from the very top. Mighty123, that's a guy that usually tries to leave comments on all the stuff we put up on YouTube. Agree 100%, Lee, that man needs to be stopped. He needs help. All jokes aside, that brother ain't right. 14400, The Bruise. This what happens when hanging out with Suge Knight and drugs. Corn Picker 420, I would have laid Katt Williams out if he would have put his hands on me. Mr. Hammy, I'm 6'5", 315 pounds, and I wouldn't have hit him back either. Payday. Roosevelt Roundtree, I agree 100%, but for those who keep saying, oh, if somebody slapped me, I'll do this or I'll do that, that's bullshit, because if you've never been a cashier or at least been in a similar situation, you can't say that. Now, I don't know if Katt Williams is bipolar or if he was breastfed by wild animals, but this is about respect, regardless of what happened. You just embarrassed you and your family on national TV. Good comedian just does stupid shit. There's another one. I don't think Katt Williams is on drugs, but is on heroin, on crack. Maybe both. Tanya Jackson, he's unleashed and needs help. I don't know if it's drugs or if he's bipolar, but whatever it is, it's nuts. And he should be committed somewhere before someone kills him or before he kills someone. Pray much, so much hate at God's creation. I'll read two more for you guys. This comes from JDub725. I do have to agree that the Target employee showed great restraint and a level head. I don't think I would have been able to do the same. I think my temper and emotions would have reacted with trying to go after him. I do agree with his actions of late. Katt Williams is not thinking clearly. My guess is mental issues or drug uses. Don't mean to judge or stereotype, but clear-headed people don't act that way. And one last comment from Shun Lieb. Working in the medical field, I deal with a lot of people like this. I'm with everyone else. I need my money to pay my $200 phone bill. I wouldn't hit him back either. Now, if he had a gun or threatened me to some extent, then it would have been a different case. Yes, this man needs help, like seriously. All joking aside, somebody needs to say and do something. And this was pretty much the main theme from those of you that were sitting up and sharing your thoughts on what all was happening with Katt Williams. You know, Katt Williams, very checkered past here, Tammy. I mean, this guy has been having legal problems as early as November 2006, where he was arrested at a Los Angeles International Airport after a stolen gun was found in his briefcase. Now, he pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor count of carrying a concealed firearm, and he was sentenced to 3 years probation, ordered to pay a restitution, and he was given credit for 3 days that he already spent in jail. Follow that up in November 2010, he was arrested by police while working on a film in Georgia. He was accused of stealing $3,500 worth of coins and jewelry, folks. He was arrested the following day on a $40,000 bond. Police later charged Williams with burglary and criminal trespass. Follow that up a year later, folks, June 11, 2011, Williams was arrested in connection of an alleged assault on a tractor driver. The alleged victim said 3 women approached his tractor at around 4:30 p.m. and attacked him with rocks and dirt clouts, causing him facial injuries. Now, L.A. County Sheriff's Department officers arrived at the scene, arrested the 3 women for assault with a deadly weapon and Williams for felony intimidation of a witness. He was booked into jail, released the same night, $50,000 bond. Now, you follow that up to November 9th this year. Lawsuit was filed in California, which alleges that back on October 6th this year, Williams had hit his former assistant with a closed fist, causing serious injury. The plaintiff is asking for punitive damages in the total amount of $5 million. Follow that up, folks, just a couple of days later on November 15th. Look at the jump there. We go from November 9th to November 15th. Williams was arrested in Oakland, California, on charges of suspicion of assault with a deadly weapon for allegedly beating an 18-year-old man with a bottle aboard Williams' tour bus. Follow that up on November 16th. An attendee of Williams' aborted performance at the Oracle Arena in Oakland filed a class action lawsuit days after the event, seeking compensation for himself and all other parties who paid for a show and got nothing but Katt Williams' non-performance. And check this out, December 2nd, Williams arrested in Seattle after he allegedly got into a dispute at a bar in South Lake Union. Williams' arrest came after his no-show at a November 29th event for the first night of a planned 2-night engagement at Paramount Theater. And now the very latest, Katt Williams had spoke with a news crew, a Seattle TV station at KOMO on Monday night to announce that he is done with stand-up comedy. Quote, "I'm kinda done." And he went on to say, "I've already discussed it with my kids. I wasn't really going to do it on a Seattle street. I was going to do it at Los Angeles and do it in the offices of ICM or Live Nation. ICM is a talent agency and Live Nation is a concert promotion company." And, you know, we saw this video, Tammy, of Katt Williams, and, I mean, he just looked like a very withered, broken-down man, clean-shaven, no mustache, doesn't have the trademark look that he used to have. And I know you are a huge fan of Katt Williams, and I know after hearing what I just said right there, yeah, that long track record of Katt Williams, you know, I definitely want to get your thoughts on this guy right here.
Well, I actually have been following him off and on for probably the last 5 years, I would say. No doubt, you know, he's definitely got some talent, but it sounds a whole lot more lately like he's got some serious issues. I mean, come on. You've been arrested at least twice in the last couple of years. Now, this year makes 3 times, and most of it is a stolen gun, concealed this, assault. It really starts to point to if he's not on some kind of drug that's altering his mental state, then he's definitely got some issues going on where he needs some help, and he needs some help fast.
It's funny because when I think about Katt Williams, I think about his appearance as Money Mike in Friday After Next, and I just loved his performance in that. I loved how he, what was the name of the landlady's son that came home from prison?
Unfortunately, I don't remember.
It's going to come to me when I least expect it. But I love that scene where they're in the apartment, and Ice Cube's character, he's throwing a little raffle party, trying to get the money together, and we see Big Man, Damon. That's his name, Damon, and he goes, "Hey Craig, who that nigga right there?" "Oh, him? Oh, man, that's Money Mike, man. Well, that nigga look magically delicious." I liked Katt Williams in that, but for some reason, there's just something about him. I really didn't, as far as his stand-up comedy, and I hear so many good things, especially from, black people, and I know black people are probably going to hear this, and they're going to be like, you ain't really black if you don't like Katt Williams. Well, hey, I don't know, call it whatever, but anyway, no, I don't like Katt Williams. I don't really think he's that funny. I think in the right roles, he's hilarious as hell. And when he was in that Friday movie, he was on point. Of course, there were numerous times where he had played a cartoon version of himself on Aaron McGruder's The Boondocks. He played a pimp. I loved it when he popped up on there a few times. I thought that was hilarious, but I never really cared too much for his comedic work. And it's just so sad when you hear something like this happen to a black male celebrity. It's hard enough as it is trying to break into the business and stay successful, but as you're gaining that success, and it really knows no race, you know what I'm saying? But when you start messing up and you are just on a self-destructive path, the cameras, unfortunately, are the same ones that made your career, and unfortunately, they will break you. And here is a case right here where, I like to say from time to time how the mighty have fallen, and this guy has just sinking so freaking fast. When we looked at that image of Katt giving that interview on the street, I didn't even think that was Katt Williams. I was like, who's the homeless guy? He just looks, I don't know who this guy is anymore.
Yeah, he looks very different, from from that person or persona that you're used to seeing. I certainly agree with you on, as far as movies and comedic roles, he is very on point. He does a stand-up job. His actual stand-up tours are okay. They're honestly not as good as his roles in his movies. Right. Or on the sitcoms, but it's definitely a case where it seems to me that something has got a hold of him.
Yeah. And how much I do not like, what's that puppet guy you're always telling me to watch, Jeff Dunham? Okay, I would take a marathon of Jeff Dunham and his puppets over Katt Williams any day of the week. That's just how unfunny I think Katt Williams is. Like you said, get him in a movie role or like a cartoon character. He freaking nails it. He's hilarious. But those stand-ups, You know, and I've seen stand-ups that he's done from like 3-4 years ago. I could see something from last year or, 10 years ago. It's just not that funny. I don't know what it is.
And not only that, it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've actually watched tidbits of certain segments of his comedy tour, and honestly, it's the same rehash stuff. Maybe dress it up or down a little bit, but pretty much it's the same jokes.
Yeah. I don't know. Two really interesting WTF stories right there. But, the Katt Williams one, that definitely. And, if that Target employee does not file a lawsuit on Katt Williams, Williams better consider that to be a blessing in disguise, because I know most people, they would have been like, okay, I got the camera right here. I got my colleagues on my left. They over at the other cash register. Oh, yeah, I'm getting paid today. So of course, we'll be keeping tabs on that story and let you guys know what's going to be happening with that. All right, what I want to do right now, I want to go on ahead and I want to take a very brief commercial break. And when we come right back, we'll go on ahead and we'll talk about the very latest from WWE Raw. But I want to kick it off by mentioning that injury as WWE Champion CM Punk suffered one serious injury so bad he had to get surgery, and as a result, he is no longer going to be at the TLC pay-per-view. We'll give you guys the very latest on what we have. I feel like playing a little music. For those of you that's going to be checking this out on YouTube, now due to copyright restraints, you're not going to be able to see this, so you'll just get a usual commercial. But for those of you that's listening live and on the downloads right now, they were harassing me all week. I was kicking back. I was watching VH1 Soul, and they just kept throwing at me a marathon of A Tribe Called Quest. And I was feeling the last song at the end, so I was like, you know what, I'm still feeling it. I'm still in that Tribe Called Quest mode. So I'm going to play something from them. I'm going to play one of their last hits that they had put out, Tribe Called Quest. This is from their Love Movement, their last album that they had put out right before they had disbanded. It's called Find a Way. Enjoy it, and we'll be coming right back. We'll jump right into WWE wrestling-related news. So you're listening to Tuesday Night Wrestling Report edition of the RCWR show, coming at you on December 4th, 2012. We'll be coming right back, folks. Do hang tight. Oh, yeah. Tribe Called Quest, Find a Way. That is from their last album, The Love Movement. Of course, for you Tribe Called Quest fans, you remember that album very vividly that had came out back in 1998, and shortly after Tribe Called Quest had broke up, and pretty much a lot of people kind of look at that as the day that one of the last truest hip-hop bands broke up, and pretty much it was never quite the same after that. Of course, we saw Q-Tip go on a solo career, didn't really do too much, make too much noise. A lot of people, including vintage Tribe Called Quest fans, they wanted for him to go back to the band, try to reform it. And, we always hear all the time, Co-Producer Tammy, what's going on with the Tribe Called Quest? Well, nothing really is going on. There was rumblings that maybe there was going to be a new album made as they still had owed the label Jive one more album of new material. And after that, pretty much all obligations have been committed to the label. They will officially be free. But, this album is as elusive as the follow-up to D'Angelo's Voodoo album. It's like you hear about it, but you ain't seen nothing yet, so it's probably never going to happen. Every year it's the same question. What's going on with the Tribe Called Quest? It's kind of like same thing with D'Angelo. It's kind of like a groundhog question almost. Is the groundhog going to see a shadow this year? It's like, who knows, But anyway, all right, welcome back to the RCWR show, Tuesday night edition. All right, so we were teasing you guys. Yeah, man, looks like WWE Champion CM Punk. That man is injured big time. Now, he had went to go see the infamous surgeon, Dr. James Andrews. Of course, Dr. Andrews, that guy is known to be the go-to doctor in the WWE. He has really done a phenomenal job patching up wrestlers. I mean, hell, he's been able to bring back Triple H from 2 quad injuries. That really should have been the end of his career, but he was able to bring back Triple H. He was able to bring back quite a few people into the squared ring. And CM Punk, he had sought consultation with Dr. Andrews earlier this morning. It was like in the wee hours of the night, pretty much right after Raw had went off the air is when he went to go see him. And he flew out to go see Dr. Andrews, too. And after getting consultation, he decided that he was going to get emergency surgery. Now, WWE, they first broke the news on their website that CM Punk had underwent successful surgery. And, of course, the question that was lingering on from there was, well, what's going to happen with CM Punk as far as his TLC match against Ryback? And here's what Dr. Andrews had to say upon the surgery and the type of surgery that was done on CM Punk. It was surgery on the left knee. Basically, he went in with a sculpt and he removed pieces of a torn meniscus that had locked up his knee. And, said that the surgery went very smoothly. He's expected to make a full recovery. And it's so funny because as we were working on this article, we had pointed out how CM Punk made no mention of this injury on his Twitter page at any time, didn't even mention how he was going to fly out to go see Dr. Andrews. There was no before, after pictures. There was nothing. It was like CM Punk was just rogue on his Twitter handle. And for the news to have broke out via WWE's website, it looked very questionable. But we had heard from fans that were in attendance at tonight's SmackDown tapings that it was announced that CM Punk will not be having his WWE Championship match against Ryback next Sunday. Instead, what we are going to be seeing is Team Hell Knows Kane and Daniel Bryan team up, and it looks like they will be taking on the team of Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns of The Shield in a 6-man match, as Team Hell No will be teaming up with Ryback to face The Shield. So very interesting development right there. Tammy, your thoughts on the sudden news there of CM Punk not being in the picture to defend the title there?
Well, very unfortunate for CM Punk and a lot of his fans and supporters, but unfortunately it's completely necessary to have him be back to 100%. Basically what he had done was a orthoscopy, which is basically, they take a instrument, go into the knee, fix the problem, and it's very less invasive and quicker healing time, so he can be back out in the ring, once, of course, he's gone through his treatments and everything. But, at this point, he really needs to take care of himself and do what he needs to do to get back into the ring at 100%.
Honestly, Tammy, when I think about it in retrospect, I think that this comes from really what was a disappointing episode of Raw. I mean, you want to talk about ratings performance-wise, because this episode ended up becoming the second worst episode of Raw that was viewed for the year 2012. Only the second worst episode in 2012, as this past Monday night's Raw, all its viewers went over to go see that Monday Night Football game, as that had drew in 16.2 million viewers. I mean, good chunk of that young audience went on over there to see that game. And, you had a disappointing Raw, even though you had some solid spots on the show. you go and you look at what happened with CM Punk, him getting his injury, and, you know, it's weird when I think about it, because when I first heard this, I said, the heavens must be playing a cruel joke on CM Punk. But then, you know, the more and more I started thinking about it, I said, you know what, this really could not come at a better time, because, you know, honestly, I thought it was stupid to have CM Punk be in a gimmick match against Ryback, just let alone, it really didn't even matter who the gimmick match was against. I just thought it was stupid that it was going to be a gimmick match of this extreme, and that CM Punk was risking serious injury leading up to his supposed match with The Rock at the Royal Rumble. I'm thinking to myself, okay, you want to make sure that Punk is ready to go here. So, you know, it's kind of nice that this happened. You know, it's unfortunate that he's not going to be able to work the TLC card, but it's nice that this happened, because now he dodges a serious bullet. He can really rest up, retrain his body. And, you know, we hear that this surgery that he got, you know, as Co-Producer Tammy alluded to, he's going to be ready to go in a couple of weeks. But if WWE is smart, you know, really take their time with him. You know, make sure, hey, if they're hearing 2-3 weeks, you know what, just let him ride it out as long as possible. Just make his little TV appearances, do some pipe bomb moments, you know, get the crowd eagerly anticipated to see him get his butt whooped by The Rock at the Royal Rumble, build it up. That way you have 100% healthy CM Punk.
I definitely agree with that. To have him come back, you know, stronger and have it be, you know, really write it into a story that is workable and believable. To have him come back stronger, and, you know, honestly, what would the match at TLC be, the third time that they, you know, come together?
Yeah, it would have been, yeah.
You know, mm-hmm.
Yeah, it
so
would have been the third time they hooked up, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, kind of, it'd be interesting to see where, you know, where and how they take the storyline.
It really is. I'm very, very curious, you know, to see what's going to happen. You know, I feel so bad talking about this past Monday night's episode of Raw, because, you know, when I really think about it and I just look at the ratings, you know, I'm just saying to myself, oh my God, you know, but let's talk about Raw in a nutshell. I mean, we did see a couple of bright spots in there. You know, we were just talking about CM Punk, and, you know, I haven't had the pleasure of rewinding those final few seconds of Raw. As the end of it, you know, we saw the Shield, who were just dominating throughout the night. I mean, we saw them interfere in Kane, Daniel Bryan's match, as they were taking on the team of Darren Young, Titus O'Neil. Now, Team Hell No, they would pick up the win, but the Shield, all throughout this match, they were just coming closer and closer to the ring, until finally, once the match was officially over, that's when they just started getting the jump on Kane and Daniel Bryan. They laid those two guys out. And then later on, we saw the Shield make another impact, as they had interfered in a match that Randy Orton had against Brad Maddox. Now, Brad Maddox, he resurfaced wanting Vicky Guerrero to give him another shot at being on the WWE roster. He basically saw the contract. Vicky Guerrero said, okay, you know what, you can have a match. If you win, then you get a WWE contract. Brad Maddox trying to figure out who his opponent was. He was not going to know until he was in the ring, and he sees he has to take on Randy Orton. This was pretty much a squash match. Randy Orton, he beat him, but immediately we saw the Shield. They come out, and they just get the beat down on Randy Orton. Devastating stuff we saw right there. Of course, the main attraction of the night, we saw CM Punk. He had to do a lie detector test. And Tam, I want to get your thoughts on that segment. You know, the way this pretty much was set up, was Miz had questioned whether or not CM Punk really was behind the Shield, if he had anything to do with Brad Maddox retaining his title at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, and Miz basically sending a message to CM Punk saying, hey, look, man, you want to prove that without a shadow of a doubt you are one of the best champions, that you know your championship run so far is not tainted in any type of way. Take the lie detector test. Prove that you're telling the truth, and once and for all, silence everybody that doubts you. So CM Punk, he accepted it, and we saw some softball questions being thrown out there at Punk, but the meat and potato questions came, which was, okay, did Brad Maddox have anything to do with your match at Hell in a Cell? Did you have Brad Maddox help you retain at Hell in a Cell? Are you associated with the Shield? And right before CM Punk could respond, we see the Shield attack Miz. Eventually we saw Kane, Daniel Bryan, they came on down there. The numbers game was looking like it was just going in favor of the Shield as they were still getting the upper hand. Ryback comes on now. He makes things even. We see the fight just scatter in the arena as CM Punk is left in the ring with a laid-out Miz. He kicks him out and is just loving it. Ryback, he pops up, and Ryback just starts having a field day with CM Punk, folks. We see him attack the WWE champion with a ladder. We see him attack him with a chair, and then we see him deliver a power bomb through a wooden table. Now, I was not able to rewind those last few minutes there as CM Punk was taking those bumps, but, you just kind of wonder if an injury might have occurred right around there, because, I'm just kind of going based off of how CM Punk was during the course of that night, and it's kind of funny when you think about it, because, correct me if I'm wrong, Co-Producer Tammy, but if I'm not mistaken, CM Punk, he didn't even have a match that night. He was just basically doing a bunch of talking.
Yeah, that's the way it appeared.
Yeah,
it appeared that he was just really there to do that segment, and then all of a sudden...
Right, and then all of a sudden, he gets attacked. So it kind of makes you wonder if Punk had perhaps got injured right there, or if this injury might have came from something during a house show. Hopefully, as the week progresses, we'll know a little bit more about that. But right now, take that news for what it's worth, as, again, we heard from fans that were in attendance at the SmackDown tapings that it was announced that CM Punk has been removed from the TLC pay-per-view, and instead the main event, it looks like, it's going to be Team Hell No teaming up with Ryback to take on the Shields, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and Romain Reigns. Now, Tammy, I did say on an episode of the RCWR show, Weekend Report, a couple of weeks back, that, the big payoff would be nice to see Team Hell No take on the Shield. You do have that opening there where, they could get it on. Do you think it might be a little bit too soon for the Shield to be involved in some type of a match, or at this choice, WWE, they have no choice but to scramble with what they got?
Well, I think, you're going to have to do something with striking that particular angle while the iron is still hot. So they're going to have to do something. They can keep doing it for just a little bit longer and having them come out, for this match or that match, depending on, how they feel of where, ever things are not in truth. But after a while, that's going to get kind of old. So, yeah, they're going to have to think about moving that group or team forward and very, very soon.
Great opportunity that they have right here. Very curious to see what's going to happen at their TLC match. Other action that we had saw on Raw, we had saw AJ defeat Tamina. We had saw John Cena team up with Sheamus to take on Dolph Ziggler, Big Show. I called that early on. I believe I called that as early as I had saw the SmackDown results, whenever it was that I had sat down and I was watching SmackDown for the first time last week, I knew that was going to happen there. But, yeah, John Cena, Sheamus, they defeated the team of Dolph Ziggler, Big Show. Solid contest that we had right there. My favorite part of the show was seeing the Damian Sandow Q&A question, where Damian Sandow has been going out past 2 weeks now trying to see if there is somebody that can answer 3 of his questions right, and if they do, then they will become a apprentice to him, and he'll basically teach them everything he knows. I like what's happening right here. You know, they're making good use of him while Cody Rhodes is out on injury, and quite honestly, I just thought Sandow was just superb as a singles competitor. Didn't really understand why they put him in the tag spot anyway, but we saw Damian Sandow. One of the questions that he had asked a fan was, H2O is the chemical formula to, and you know, Co-Producer Tammy, I know you kind of didn't even watch this segment, so, you know, let's pick on your brain a little bit. H2O is the chemical formula to?
Water.
Okay, right, and the guy got that right. Who was the first president of the USA?
George Washington.
All right, and he got that correct. Now, let's see how you do with this one. What famed English poet wrote, "Much have I traveled in the land of gold"?
I couldn't tell you that. I have no clue.
And that's exactly what the fan had said. And Sandow says apparently the guy that said that, the poet, it's John Keats. And Sandow had the following to say to the fan, and I just thought this was classic. I love this line. He said, "Ignorance is curable, but stupid is forever. Now forever leave my presence." Oh, if there was ever a time you wanted to just grab Sandow by his beard, you know, that would have been the right time to do it. Now, this was a good setup for Santino. He had some lame joke that really was just silly, and from there we saw a match between Sandow and Santino. Damian Sandow picking up the victory over Santino. Alberto Del Rio once again defeated Sin Cara. It's like a glitch in the Matrix, as Zed likes to say. I'm wondering, why do we keep seeing Alberto Del Rio and Sin Cara lock it up so many times? It's like, you want Del Rio to look strong, and let's make Sin Cara tap out. I'm a little bit tired of seeing that. And for those of you that might have been wondering what's going on with Rey Mysterio, looks like Rey Mysterio is taking some personal time off yet again. Attending to some personal matters. He's going to be gone for a couple of weeks. Way to leave Sin Cara dangling in the wind there. Tammy, you think at this point, with the frequent amount of times we have seen Rey Mysterio team with Sin Cara, then he disappears, whether it's because of a concussion or some other injury or flu or whatever, you know, you think it would just be better at this point if WWE just separates these two, or, you know, for just the sake of the argument, these two guys should continue to be pairing up together? Because apparently, you know, the one good thing that is happening from Sin Cara and Rey Mysterio teaming up is that Sin Cara is learning more and more the American type of style of wrestling, courtesy of Sin Cara, who's basically acting as translator, a personal guide, really helping him break into the WWE.
Yeah. Well, for me, as you know, for my personal opinion, it's unfortunate that Rey Mysterio is taking some time off and leaving Sin Cara dangling in the wind, because they are so much better together than they are, well, certainly for Sin Cara, as he is apart. They really look like a team. He really is learning so much under him. Besides, you know, the style, the matches look so much better. They seem so much more fluid and just something that you want to watch. Yeah, something that you want to watch instead of, oh, Sin Cara, okay, time for a set break or, what have you, and just not very much interested in what it is. I mean, maybe they're trying to recapture the magic with Del Rio and Sin Cara, but I don't think that's going to work.
You brought up a very valid point, and I want to touch on that, which is, in the past, you could look at a Sin Cara match, and you could say, oh, God, it's this guy with the dim lights. He's going to be messing up all over the place. Oh, man, this guy sucks. But, now you're able to sit through a match, and you say, you don't say it was a 5-star quality type of match, but you say, oh, that was pretty impressive. Man, Sin Cara's kind of coming along there. All right, that's pretty good. What else we got? So, yeah, it is rubbing off. Whatever Rey Mysterio is teaching him, it is rubbing off. But, I just can't help but wonder, if this pairing is really, going to work. I mean, we all know what the end result should be for WWE. I mean, they would like for it to happen. They would like for really Rey Mysterio, because Sin Cara, he's pretty much been healthy since he's been in the WWE there for the most part. But it's really coming down to Rey Mysterio, because they want for Rey Mysterio to be healthy enough to be teaming with Sin Cara for so long that eventually they can just break these two up. Somebody turns on somebody. Mainly, they would like for Rey to go the heel route, turn on Sin Cara to really get Sin Cara over, have somewhat of a dream-style type of match at WrestleMania. Do you think there's still a little bit of hope for that? Or, if Rey keeps this up, you think maybe WWE should just go in a different direction?
Well, I guess that just depends on how long he's going to be out, because after a certain amount of time, the fans aren't really going to care.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be like, oh, okay, kind of, gone, but not quite forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's going to be like, oh, well, and it's back to the same old, routine, because obviously that's exactly what it's going back to, except, he has grown as a wrestler, from the pairing.
Weird. One of the main attractions of the night was the United States Championship, where the WWE Universe had decided in a Raw Active poll which champion was going to be defending their title in a fatal four-way match. It was either going to be Kofi Kingston's Intercontinental title on the line, or it was going to be Antonio Cesaro's United States Championship on the line, and in a landslide victory, Antonio Cesaro was what the WWE Universe wanted to see, as Cesaro had to defend the title against Kofi Kingston, Wade Barrett, R-Truth. Antonio Cesaro would pick up the victory. He was able to get a win by pinning Kofi Kingston. Pretty impressive match that we saw right there. That was probably one of the most significant matches that stood out in my mind from that whole 3-hour block of Raw. Although my mind was on football, that was one of my favorite highlights from Raw that night. Of course, I love the segment that CM Punk had there leading up to that lie detector test, where he had told the fans that basically if it wasn't for him, basically they wouldn't exist, and that basically they wouldn't be sitting up going through these dismal episodes of Raw. Tammy, that's exactly what CM Punk had said, and it's so funny that CM Punk had said that when you think about the last little bit of attraction that was added to Raw in the third hour, and I thought it was played smart. It goes back to what I had suggested WWE try experimenting with this past weekend. I say, WWE, they need to take something that is like a good main attraction, and we were talking about this all throughout the weekend, take something that they can keep going into the third hour to make the viewers want to stick around for that third hour, because if you put all your main hits out in those first 2 hours, and there's really nothing for the fan to really kick back and say, okay, I want to watch the third hour. They're going to be like, okay, I've seen what I needed to see. What else is on TV? And I loved how they just teased the fact that Vince McMahon was in the arena, that he was going to be popping up, and sure enough, third hour, we get Vince McMahon. Basically, you're thinking to yourself, what is Vince McMahon possibly going to be saying here? I'm thinking to myself, okay, is Vince McMahon finally going to acknowledge the WWE Universe and say to them, okay, you know what, we know the product has been struggling within recent weeks, bear with us, we're going to be shaking things up very, very shortly, or, I'm thinking maybe he's getting ready to say something like that. Instead, we basically see him come out to add a stipulation to the match that Dolph Ziggler and John Cena is going to be having. Oh, yeah, folks, Dolph Ziggler and John Cena are going to be getting it on at TLC. We did see in a backstage segment Dolph Ziggler talking to Vicky Guerrero, letting her know that he wants one more crack at John Cena to prove that he has what it takes to be in the top league with the big dogs. He wants to take another crack at Cena and beat him. And Vicky gave it to him. So originally looked as if it was going to be a straight-up singles match. Vince McMahon, he tells Vicky how he heard about this match, what more could be done to spice it up a little bit. Well, Vicky Guerrero, she's not really coming up with any bright ideas. We basically see Vince McMahon kind of punk Vicky Guerrero and is saying it was going to be a no disqualification match, and Vince McMahon's kind of like, well, kind of has to be that way anyway. It is a TLC pay-per-view when you think about it, Vicky. We'll do a little bit more. Vicky can't really come up with anything. Vince McMahon punks her into saying it's going to be a ladder match. Then he punks her even more, saying that Dolph Ziggler's Money in the Bank briefcase is going to be on the line. Vicky Guerrero saying that's not fair, but McMahon pointing out, hey, it's not fair that you're bashing John Cena and AJ Lee every single week with this ridiculous scandal. Yeah, that's the match. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be a ladder match for the Money in the Bank briefcase. Tammy, your thoughts with The Rock just right around the corner there. You think it's highly possible that Dolph Ziggler's Money in the Bank briefcase could be at jeopardy, that Cena could, I know we're offering match predictions a little early here, but do you think it's remotely possible that Cena could get this Money in the Bank briefcase to try to use to inject himself into either the Royal Rumble or maybe come WrestleMania, or do you think Dolph Ziggler should have this locked?
I definitely think that there's a good possibility that they could throw a monkey wrench as far as the Money in the Bank case and cashing it in as far as, who's matching up with who. But Dolph Ziggler is very much of a hot streak right now. So as far as, the programming and all that, I really think that they should continue with, trying to put him in more, and having him do more, which actually they're doing right now. So it could definitely be a good possibility, yeah.
So you're going on record right now. So you're going on record. You're saying Ziggler will retain, or you're saying Cena could possibly, you're leaning more towards Cena. Where are you leaning more towards?
Well, we already know, at least what I thought I've heard, is that it would be a matchup between Cena and The Rock.
Right.
Or, yeah. So it's it sounds to me like Cena will take it.
Now, that's what you think you see. Now, what would you like to happen? Now, that's a completely different question.
I would actually like to see Ziggler take a crack at it. I'd actually like to see what he could do.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with his work. I'd like to see what he could do.
I'm a huge Ziggler fan, and I mean, I just, the one thing I'm asking myself, I do have that booking and that writing background. I'm kind of asking myself, this is just an early match prediction preview right here, folks. I don't mean to really go all into it, but they've given us this match, so we kind of have to talk about it because that's what they're presenting us with. I'm just thinking from that booking writing standpoint, I would just really be kind of out of ideas on where to go with Dolph Ziggler if he were to lose that Money in the Bank briefcase to Cena. It's like, where does he go from there? You basically just take all the build-up you've been doing of him as of late, and, you basically are just saying that it's all been for nothing. That's pretty much how I would sum it up. So, unless you got something, I'm trying to think past that. I really cannot come up with anything. Not unless maybe you want to have him be associated with the Shield. I don't know what you could do with Dolph Ziggler right there, but he needs this win. I mean, he needs it more than Cena does. When it's all said and done, Cena, whether some people like it or not, Cena's destiny is The Rock. It's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Whether some people like it or not, it's going to happen. Does he need the Money in the Bank briefcase to do it? No, he really doesn't need it. This really needs to be about Dolph Ziggler, as you said, Tammy, getting over. It's really his time. And I think so many people like him or hate him. I think so many people will agree, with a uncanny type of talent that Dolph Ziggler has. No doubt it is his time. Let's see what the man can do already. One other thing and we want to mention here, overall WWE Raw, not really a must-see episode. Tammy, the little bits and pieces that you had saw, were you did you like what you see? It didn't really hook you like that? I mean, be for real, 'cause I know many, many wrestling fans, they were more into that football game for Monday.
I have to say, for me, it was about the same. I was kind of more into the football game, but the one segment that really caught my attention was the segment between, basically what they call Ms. TV, and having, Cena basically hooked up to a lie detector test and then having him answer questions. That certainly caught my interest and had me intrigued to find out what was next. Other than that, I honestly did not see anything that would make me say, oh, well, you know what, let me see what happens next. Yeah.
And it's very unfortunate. You take this episode of Raw that we had got, and folks, we should remind you that this Raw that we had got, if I'm not mistaken, Tammy, was it this Raw or was it the Raw last week where Vince McMahon and crew, they were not in attendance because they were overseas doing the thing for the troops, filming that 10th anniversary episode. Were we talking about that last week or was it this week?
I think it was more last week.
Okay, I was about to say, it should have been back to business as usual for this week, yeah. Very interesting, because we have Vince McMahon back to try to help put some type of a spike in the ratings. And, I mean, in case you guys might have missed the latest ratings here, here's the breakdown for this past Monday night's Raw. Disappointing. Get ready for this. Tammy, I know you're hearing this for the first time. 2.55 rating with 3.44 million viewers. Now, these ratings are down from last week's episode. Bear in mind that last week's episode was minus Vince McMahon, who was overseas doing the SmackDown for the Truth special. That episode, in which Triple H was in charge of the whole 3 hours, scored a 2.72 rating with 3.92 million viewers. Now, This past Monday night's Raw saw its lowest viewers for an episode in many years, as it was fewer than the October 1st episode, which was deemed the least watched episode with 3.502 million viewers. Monday night's Raw from last night also became the second least watched episode, beating the October 22nd episode, despite it scoring a 2.49 rating. So, you hear this news, and you just say to yourself, man, where'd all the viewers go? And once again, all the viewers went to that Monday Night Football game between the Redskins and the Giants, as they had picked up an impressive 16.21 million viewers. We already hear the stories about Vince McMahon in panic mode. He's trying to figure out ways to shake up the program. We hear these stories almost every single week. Vince McMahon pissed off. He's looking to put somebody's head on a pike. Tammy, your thoughts on this? I know we talked about it over and over again, but hearing these latest numbers that are coming out, and once again, this is the 16th week in a row now where the ratings from the second hour going into the third have dipped. Does it really boil down to the type of content that they're putting in these 3-hour shows, or does it really just come down to the average wrestling fan just really does not want to stay dedicated to a wrestling show that's 3 hours long?
I think it's a combination of a few things. One, I do think the dedication to a 3-hour show is a bit much. Come on, we don't even go to watch, we do, but then we fuss about it. We don't even go to watch 3-hour movies. To be stuck in one spot for 3 hours, thus saying, you're watching an episode of Raw, is a bit much to ask for the fans. And unless you're going to have some heck of a teasers, to keep them saying, I've got to tune in to see such and such, then, they're going to lose interest, especially after watching the first two. And then, you got to consider that depending on your viewers, some of them are younger, and they're not going to be able to stay up until 11 o'clock. So, just in those three areas, they need to do some reworking. One is maybe look into having the show back to 2 hours, because by then the fans are really invested and they feel like they're getting a lot of show versus wrestling, and probably more wrestling and less show than they do with the 3 hours.
I'm gonna say this, and then I want to open up the phone lines as we got some great listeners that's patiently waiting to chime in their thoughts, and I definitely want to pick their brains on this. Do you think maybe they should take what they are emulating with Main Event and SmackDown? Do you think this really needs to be a case where for that third hour they need to take what's being put into those shows and combine it into that hour? It doesn't even have to be that third hour, but preferably that is that third hour that really needs all the help it can get. Do you think maybe the fans would be sold if maybe the third hour of Raw could just be a bonus Main Event episode? I mean, you got your thing on Ion, right? Maybe, do you think maybe they might need to do something like a Main Event for that third hour and spend the first 2 hours really hyping up that Main Event? Then when you go into that third hour, you just let those guys have at it for a half hour, recap after 30 minutes what all the folks had missed. And that takes usually about maybe, 10 minutes, recap what all had transpired in the night. Then you bring on your main attraction of the night. Do you think maybe they could emulate something like that? Think that might be a safe way to go?
Well, for me, I actually think that might be a better way to go. I mean, look at the success that they are having with main event and SmackDown. It kind of goes back to going with what works. And not only that, it kind of, when you were talking, the analogy came into my head is, when you go to a concert, you like the acts, the beginning acts, the opening acts, but really what you came to see is the stars that are starring in the show.
That's right.
So
Lord knows. Yeah, I was going to say, Lord knows. I remember when I went to go see Soundgarden at the Patriot Center, I had to deal with the Mars Volta, and I was like, who the hell are these guys? Where the fuck is Soundgarden? And I was happy to see the opening act because, they jammed for like an hour plus, playing some kick-ass music that had me go, okay, I got to download their stuff on the iPod. But it's exactly what you say. You're there for the main attraction, and then, it gets you pumped, it gets you psyched up, and then when the main attraction does finally come, you're lost in the moment, and, it lives up to the hype.
Mm-hmm. And you don't care what time it is or what hour, you're on, because you're so invested into the show and into the entertainment that it doesn't matter.
Right. They're gonna have to do something. I mean, we've already heard, a few people's opinions. Well, maybe they should change the format of the show, try to make it be a little more edgier. We've offered our opinions on, maybe they should try to switch it up, make that third hour be TV rated 14. There's a couple of different angles they could take right there, but ultimately the decision is up to Vince McMahon. But one thing's for certain, this guy is not a happy camper right now, and I'm very curious to see how the final Raw coming up next week does, as that'll be the final Raw leading into the TLC pay-per-view. If that episode pulls in similar numbers, I would imagine that there's going to be some people that could possibly be getting the pink slip. Somebody's going to be blamed for the failure that Raw has been experiencing as of late. Let's go on ahead and let's open up the phone lines. We want to hear from you guys. Number to call is 646-478-3525. Once again, that's 646-478-3525. Let's kick things off. And, after a certain amount of time, and when we see our switchboards here, usually we can tell who's been on hold for the longest, and time to time it resets. So if we end up skipping you, we apologize, but we're going to get to everybody. Let's go with, it looks like 973 is beating Dave right now, so let's go to 973. You're live on the air.
Lee.
Hey.
Lee, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Allow me to indulge your indulgence for a moment. This is Don from New York. You're welcome.
What's up, man? How you been?
And I'm very disappointed that lovely co-producer Tammy did not know who the English poet was, nor do I suspect she would know the orbital velocity. Silence! The orbital velocity of the moon Europa around Jupiter. Yeah, I love Damian Sandow. That guy's a trip.
Yeah, that guy's the man.
I remember him in FCW, right? And he was just this, kind of just guy from Massachusetts, real clean cut. And they totally, Triple H, I give them credit. They totally reinvented his character when they brought him up from the minor leagues. I think they're doing a nice job with him.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Drawing a lot of heat.
Yeah, without a doubt. So what do you make of what's been happening with these 3-hour episodes? What do you think Vince McMahon and crew need to do?
Yeah, well, you brought up possibly going, TV 14, the third hour. They're still linked at the hip with Mattel and all these toy companies and Kmart and the stockholders. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, it's right now. I mean, I know the Linda McMahon campaign. I don't know where she goes from here. Does she run for president? I don't know. Or does Vince run for president? I mean, I'm not sure what the political ambitions of the McMahons are. I'm sure Stephanie and definitely Hunter have political ambitions. I mean, you can totally see Senator Stephanie McMahon down the road, but I think they're going to keep it as is. I'm like you. I mean, bring back ECW, bring back Attitude Era, bring all of it back. But I don't think they're going. I think they're going forward with this.
Right. And I mean, that's fine if they don't go that route. But but then the question is asked: well, do they take the elements that they're putting in main event, SmackDown, main event, overnight sensation? Do they need to take cues from those and somehow try to figure out how to shake up that third hour there?
Mm-hmm. Or even SmackDown's been like really solid. I mean, it's sad to say, but I would have been doing it on my Friday nights, staying home watching SmackDown. Although, I mean, let's face it, these days it's on YouTube, hours before, hours after. So really not necessary, but it's still kind of fun. I mean, this CM Punk thing with the knee injury, I mean, can we dare say it's a work?
I don't know. It's funny because, and I was thinking the same thing as the article was being written up today by one of our folks that usually writes up stuff. They pointed out it was funny that CM Punk didn't post any tweets, no pictures on his knee injury, no tweet about he's going to go see Andrews. I think one of the last tweets you saw was something from 8 hours ago, and it was an irrelevant tweet. It didn't even have anything to do with what happened on Raw. And then the tweet before that, he was thanking everybody for the great Q&A at a Comic-Con convention he had attended. So, you kind of look at all those things, and you're saying to yourself, okay, WWE, they're breaking this out. Take it with a grain of salt, but now we're hearing CM Punk's been removed from the TLC card. I don't know. Yeah. If it's a work, I love it. I love getting a curveball from time to time, but there's just something that kind of says this is the real deal. I mean, I don't know, Tammy. What's your take on that?
Honestly, it's kind of 50-50 for me. 50-50 it's possibly a work, and 50 is, it is legit, but it's interesting to not have apparently, at least some tweet saying something that would be relevant to what's happening now, especially when you're saying that 8 hours ago he's basically tweeting something, but it's completely irrelevant to anything that's happening or anything that's coming out. That seems mighty strange.
And it should be pointed out, and I just had this just pop up in my brain for you guys that's listening. CM Punk, he did play a joke on the online community. I believe it was a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. He had put out a tweet saying that he was going to get an X-ray done, and it had so many people. I mean, it was so funny. And you know how we usually do it over here. We wait until we get all the information. So we were just looking at this. We're like, okay, take that with a grain of salt because that just came out of nowhere. And it was so funny how all of the wrestling websites were sitting up, CM Punk having X-rays. We're not sure what injury. And, people were trying to make up stuff and all this other crazy crap. Turns out he was getting an X-ray done on his chest to make sure that it was okay for him to go fly up in some airplane or something. And he was like, I got you guys. So, you can't kind of help but kind of wonder, if this might be a case again or if this is going to be part of the storyline involving Team Hell No with Ryback taking on the Shield. Maybe CM Punk might have something to do with that match. We're going to have to wait and see. I mean, we heard what we heard from the SmackDown tapings. Now I want to see what's going to happen on SmackDown. I want to see how this is going to play out, how it's announced, the style of it. But, leading up until next Monday night's Raw, leading into the TLC pay-per-view, we just got to take with what we got right now. But, I've always gone on record and said don't believe the injury until you see pictures floating around because that's WWE style. They love showing the pictures of the wrestlers being operated on. Why, I don't know. Call it a Vince McMahon deal, but he loves showing those type of pictures. You know, X-rays, you know, leg being popped open, you know, like a big old piece of chicken. He likes seeing all that grotesque stuff. So, you know, it's the truth. You know, I'm not trying to be funny, but it's the truth. Until you see some stuff like that, just play it by ears. But for what it's worth right now, supposedly, CM Punk not going to be at TLC. All right, let's go with the next caller. Don, thanks for that call. Let's go to, who's next? Let's go to 661. You live on the air, my friend.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Hey, pretty good. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Josh, and I'm calling from California.
Ah, okay, Josh. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. You know, I was
right.
really impressed with only one match last night on Raw, and that was the Fatal 4-Way with Cesaro and Barrett and Kingston and Truth. I just love that match because it shows the young talent that they have, but they're just holding them back, and I just want them to give them that major push that all of them need. Because Kobe's been in the WWE for how many years now? 5, 4, 6, something like that. And he's been in the high mid-card or middle mid-card. And Barrett's been to the main event, but he never contended for a championship. He didn't get a real shot. And then here you have Cesaro, who has great in-ring talent. He just needs mic work, and he has a lot of potential right there with his gimmick. So once they get him done, they have a great young core to go with.
Yeah.
And you were saying earlier how Raw should be reduced from 3 to 2. I am so on board with that because I feel like that they are starting to run out of ideas of what to do because they only have a limited amount of ideas for each episode. And then with that extra hour, they have to throw in fillers and matches that don't make sense, like the Del Rio and Sin Cara one.
Not only that, but, I mean, look at the way WWE insults everybody that views the shows every single week. You know, Tammy, you and me, we've poked fun at this many Monday nights, how Raw will show you a segment where, let's say, for example, AJ just pimp slaps John Cena, okay, 5 minutes later, you get a recap, and then you get a recap like every segment. It's like, do they think we're 90 years old? You know, are we that senile? We remember what happened, you know. And, you know, if that alone, the amount of times that they're showing the recaps, I mean, that's like about what? At least combined, that's at least maybe 10 minutes right there.
Yeah, it's a lot of fillers. You know, that's how I feel. That it's a lot of fillers, and they're trying and scrambling to figure out with the limited amount of resources that they're using or, you know, the gimmicks that they have for that night. It's so much other stuff that needs to go in to fill in that extra hour that they, you know, haven't been doing for the past, you know, 5 to 10 years prior to that.
What else you got, Josh?
Well, I heard the news of the CM Punk knee surgery, and I was trying to figure out, like, because I know he's been having problems with his knees for like 4 or 5 months now. I was trying to figure out if you guys think that it might have been when Ryback put him through the table. That's when it finally gave way on that one. Because the power bomb that Ryback does, it has a lot of torque, and you come down at such a great velocity, and to have that tail right there would surely mess you up.
You know, it's one of those things, and I was saying it to Tammy just right before we went on the air. You know, I unfortunately, when this news had broke out, and I was prepping for tonight's show, so, you know, you could just imagine how my eyes lit up when I heard CM Punk's been pulled from TLC, and I'm hearing how he got the surgery, you know, and unfortunately I'm trying to picture in my head, okay, just how did he take that power bomb? And, of course, we got the video floating around. We stumbled across a video of CM Punk being helped out of the ring. It's on our Facebook page. Go check it out. And, you can see officials, they're trying to pull him out the ring as Paul Heyman looks on holding the WWE Championship. Half the arena looks like it's been emptied out already, but you still got people lingering around. And it's very funny. Unfortunately, I have not rewinded those last few seconds, to see if maybe it could possibly had been that. As we kind of speculated earlier, it could be a case where maybe something happened at a house show event, and, he was just holding it off for so long that, after Raw, that's when he went to go see James Andrews. But, I don't know. I'm going with what they're saying, but, there's just that part of me that's just kind of like, let's just wait and see what happens, because WWE, they've been known to throw some curveballs here and there. And, Tammy, it's so funny because, we were talking about what's been happening with Raw and everything and how they need to cut it back to 2 hours. The one thing that I think they really need to be concerned with, and I was just amazed at this, especially over the past 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I was stunned to see the amount of times Dolph Ziggler had wrestled leading up to his match with John Cena on Main Event. And then we saw last week John Cena did his thing with Ziggler. Then we see him on Main Event do his thing with Damian Sandow. Then we see him do his thing with Alberto Del Rio on last week's SmackDown. A lot of people, they see all these things, and though you may be watching a brand new episode, what you really have to keep in the back of your mind is that a lot of times you're watching these wrestlers that you're rooting on perform 2, sometimes 3 times in a night. And, that right there is a high risk of injury. And it's so funny, Tammy, because, you go back to CM Punk's DVD and, there's that part of the story that's been said that, you got some wrestlers, they hope that they don't get called to wrestle on Superstars, NXT, because basically they don't have to perform and they get paid for basically doing nothing. Meanwhile, you got guys like John Cena, Dolph Ziggler that's popping up on all these shows, wrestling 2-3 different guys in the same night for X amount of different shows. I mean, you even got the announcers sitting up, as we saw the new web show, the JBL and Michael Cole show. It's so funny. Do me a favor next time for you guys. Peep this out. Notice the type of clothes that Michael Cole, JBL, or if it's The Miz that he's partnered up with, notice what they're wearing when they're doing Main Event. And then notice what's happening on SmackDown, for those of you that don't believe us when we say, they're taping more than one episode. And anybody that's been to a WWE live event, you guys know that usually when it comes to Raw, I believe, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but on Raw Monday nights, they are usually taping Saturday morning Slam, if I'm not mistaken. And then when you go to the SmackDown tapings, they're doing Main Event. I believe they're doing Superstars. So, I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff that they're doing right there. But, the main point that I'm trying to make to that, they're risking high injury. And, the smart money would be to sit up over the long haul, kill Raw's 3-hour status, bring it back down to 2. That way you can have your wrestlers kind of rest up a little bit more and not always be so exposed to being in a possible situation where they risk high injury. Tammy, I don't know, what your thoughts on what I just said there.
Well, definitely, because you have those shows and what the expectations are for this wrestler or that wrestler, because that they're going to want to see a match that has either one of their favorite wrestlers or somebody they can identify with. So you are then repeating, matches with different opponents, but they're still wrestling 2 to 3 times, maybe even 4 a week, because of the different shows, not to mention the house shows that they're doing.
Exactly.
So, you risk, because you risk the wear and tear on the body, and if you're not physically in that shape, or if a wrong move is done or not done completely as well or as methodical as it's supposed to be, absolutely, it can get hurt, and they can get hurt real quickly.
Yeah.
Not to mention the day-to-day wear and tear.
Exactly. Let's squeeze in our good friend Dave from the Michigan area. Dave, you live, my friend.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, pretty good, man.
Yeah, I mean, Raw wasn't that great. But to touch on the CM Punk thing, let's not forget, Matt Morgan and Devon both fooled us all thinking they were out of TNA. And Twitter is just big work now. It used to be where you think you're real and connected with these guys. Vince McMahon is using Twitter to still work you, even though you're not even watching wrestling. It's all a big work. I mean, I don't know anything about CM Punk. I mean, it could be a real injury, or it could not be. I mean, so we don't really know. I guess we'll wait and see. Would you remember back in the Attitude Era days, mid-'90s, the way they used to sell injuries where someone's hurt so they can't wrestle? Here's the note from my doctor. Well, now it's Twitter. So you can sell the injury more, because back in our day watching wrestling, it was like, oh, this guy's hurt. He hurt his leg. Note from a doctor. He can't defend the title. And then you find out that later on it was faked. So they could pull up something like that, like CM Punk faked the injury to get out of that match to make him show he fears Ryback.
Right.
So that's another intriguing thing there.
Yeah, it is. It's really, and I know there's probably other shows that's going to be having a field day with this. They're going to be trying to micromanage in this, do some suspenseful stuff. What does it mean for TLC, I'm just looking at this, and I'm still going to be checking out TLC just to see what happens. But if the injury is legit, they're still going to need to have CM Punk make some type of an appearance at the pay-per-view, because otherwise those buy rates, they're going to be really bad.
Well, and I hope you're right about the whole Rock thing, because, I mean, it's just going to be horrible. And I was thinking about Dolph Ziggler. It's like, let's look at last year. Let's compare Daniel Bryan, I believe it was last year, was the SmackDown Money in the Bank winner, and he was at this time. He got a world title match with Mark Henry before TLC even happened. When's the last time you've seen Dolph Ziggler even put any kind of spots with the world champion where he's actually... Remember last year, Big Show was trying to get Daniel Bryan, okay, cash it in. And they gave you the build for it. They haven't done anything like that with Dolph Ziggler. I mean, you haven't seen nothing. Daniel Bryan, you could see the push there for him. I mean, they were like, okay, here. And then when he finally did it was like, oh, ironically enough, it's a chairs match with Sheamus, which was last year as well. But just to say, if they did go there, no one wants them to go there with Cena. But let's go there for a minute. Let's say they do. Cena wins, and they go into, he catches him that night. Say he's the world champion ending the year. So you have CM Punk and John Cena as your world champion, WWE champion. You could see a scenario where you have The Rock and Cena for the world title. And say somehow The Rock wins the world title. Well, you could have The Rock still coming in. Which I'm not saying it will happen, it's just hypothetically. Have The Rock come in and tape all his stuff for SmackDown where he's not having to be there live. So that would actually help his little TV status and movie status he do promoting his stuff even better, because he could tape all this stuff.
Right.
Now, do you actually see, I know as you guys said earlier, you guys don't see Cena winning the world title or winning Money in the Bank, which I could see the Shield even in that scenario interfere in that match. And then John Cena go after them.
Right.
But can you see Cena actually winning Money in the Bank, or maybe the Shield even interfering in that match?
Oh, man. Tammy, I'll let you take that one. I need to marinate on that one a little more. What do you make of that?
I think I honestly see the interference more than I do John Cena taking it straight away, because they have just been in more and more lately.
Yeah.
They just seem to, pop up, and you're like, oh, okay. So I honestly see interference. I really see interference.
The way I'm at right now, that's a good route to take. But and Tammy, you know me for a long time. You know how I usually roll. I say I don't like going that far ahead. I think that's good. That's another story for another time. I think right now the main thing we all need to be focused on right now is what exactly is going on with the WWE Champion CM Punk. Is this really legit that he's not going to be able to do the match at TLC, or is this another great curveball given to us by the WWE? I think that's what we really need to be focused on right now. And, we can worry about what all could possibly happen with the match between John Cena and Dolph Ziggler at TLC. We got that coming up shortly, and there's some very interesting turns that could happen in that match. And you know what? We could possibly see the Shield maybe do a little something in that match. Who knows? It really just depends. But quite honestly, I will go on record and say that for TLC, the match between Cena and Ziggler, ladder match, Money in the Bank briefcase, I don't think you need the Shield. I think right now, and WWE, they've been showing those signs, though it might be little subtle touches. They've been showing that they're ready for Dolph to take it up to the next level, and he needs this win more than The Rock. And Tammy, I think you would agree with that. Ziggler, he needs this. If he wants to go over, if he wants to even look legitimate as a champion, as a future champion, he needs this win over John Cena. And, it doesn't matter how it comes down. It doesn't matter if we know Cena, very rare that he gives a clean victory to somebody. So whether it be a clean victory or, Vicky gets involved, AJ gets involved, something needs to happen. Ziggler needs to get the win, and, that needs to catapult him so that really he can start generating that buzz. Because what is it? I believe they have a year to cash in that Money in the Bank briefcase.
Mm-hmm.
So
he's already got the talent. He's had the talent. He's actually just, growing that personality and the talent more, but he is a phenomenal wrestler.
Yeah, and it's good to see WWE finally. I like the slow pace they've been going. They've been creating that buzz, that hype. Every single pay-per-view, is the night going to be the night? Is Ziggler going to do it tonight? Is he going to cash in that Money in the Bank briefcase? WWE knows the fans are waiting for that, and they want to be the ones to have their finger on that pulse. When they want it to happen when fans least expect it to happen. I respect them for going that route. But don't wait too long, or else that moment is just going to pass, and, then you're going to be like, well, what do we do now? Next thing you know, it's going to be WrestleMania 29, and Dolph Ziggler still ain't cashed in the briefcase.
And then at that point, that night will be the night.
Exactly, But that's going to do it. We'll be staying on top of what's happening with CM Punk, give you guys the very latest update, whatever we're able to find out. And, hey, for you guys that love being on Twitter a lot, if you happen to see any pictures come from CM Punk showing his leg injury, cast, something, make sure you hit it up our way, send it our way over at Infinity One Prod. But that's what I want you guys to really be on the lookout for, unless you see some type of pictures released from active WWE wrestlers showing CM Punk with his leg in a cast, or unless you read some type of legitimate tweet that you think might be legitimate, maybe from JR or something like that, saying, hey, saw CM Punk, the leg, unless you see some stuff like that or pictures, just take what you're hearing right now with a grain of salt. Consider it just being a curveball, maybe a nice little way to try to bring up the pay-per-view buy rates for TLC, but just take it for what it's worth right now. It's just a rumor for now, even though it's already been announced on the SmackDown tapings. Punk won't be at TLC. For the very latest and wrestling-related news, be sure to follow us at InfinityOneProductions.com, where we cover so much more than wrestling. And we'll see you guys this Thursday night for Impact Showdown Radio. Cover the very latest fallout from Impact Wrestling Live, also the very latest in TNA wrestling news. We got some major headlines that we need to share with you guys, as it looks like TNA is going to be dropping 1 or 2 pay-per-views come from the 2013 calendar. We'll share the details and analysis with you all on that this Thursday night, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern, right here on Blog Talk Radio. For the lovely co-producer Tammy, I'm the Black Avenger. I know. I'm the Black Avenger, Lee Sanders. And you all be safe and be kind to one another, folks. See you this Thursday night. Dude, take care.
Good night.